I got something I want to share with you this morning that I really believe God is just, his emphasis is on that. Because to many people, church is just church. Church is a gathering of religious people and a little bit of fellowship here, and it's a holy huddle here and a holy huddle there. But God has a different concept of church. Like I said, it's his body. He's mindful of a few things differently compared to what we are mindful of. Having said that, I want to bring you to a specific train of thought. Just bear with me. It was Jonah that when he fled from the presence of the Lord, when God said to him, hey, it's time to go to Nineveh. I want you to preach the gospel of salvation. And he said, no, he's not going there. He's off to Joppa. Find himself a new Joppa. And that's actually a very interesting city, Joppa. That's bearing on where we're going. Bear with me. You'll find that in Jonah 1 verse 3. So having said that, Joppa means beautiful or bright. Beautiful or bright. So Jonah wasn't so, how can I say, I don't want to say dumb, because it doesn't sound, when he went down to this Joppa, because he was looking for something beautiful, something bright, something that the glitz and the glamour, where it attracted the lights and all that kind of stuff. And then I did a little study on this Joppa, which is quite interesting. It was one of the most famous ports, but very dangerous. Because, how many of you remember he took a boat from there? Yeah, port. So it was a famous port, but very dangerous. But it carried on a flourishing trade. It was a trade center where they traded. Quite interesting. It's now called Jaffa. Very well-known port. So Jonah fled to Joppa from the presence of the Lord. I'm going to say it again. Jonah fled to Joppa from the presence of the Lord. So when I say Joppa was a place for people that fled from the presence of the Lord, I'm going to play a little bit with words. Bear with me. So what is your port you flee to from the call of God? I'm going to ask that question again, just to let it sink in. What is the port you flee to from the presence of the Lord? Because Jonah used it as trading. I'm going to go make money. Oh, that went well. Trading, money, finances. That's my port. That's what Jonah said. So the boat, which is the vehicle that's going to get you there, is about to meet God's external persuasion plan. Hello. So be careful what you plan, how you plan. God's got a plan. How many of you know that Jesus was actually God? John chapter 1 verse 1 says what? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So he was God manifested. So I want to ask you something. If you are God of your own life and everything that you created, why submit and subject your will to another? Lord, not my will, but if even he felt to subject and submit his will to the will of God, don't you think we ought to flow with something like that? My will subjected to the will of God, contrary to the belief of others. Go do that and go do that. Yes, I can. But I won't. You can be God of your own life, and you can use Joppa as the port of call. But somewhere along the line, he's going to knock on your door. Hear my heart. Maybe I'm saying it to somebody that's watching this over a broadcast. Maybe it's not for you in the house. But I sat there and that thing just, yes. It's knowing. It's knowing. It's knowing. It's in there. Is this the will of God? Is this the will am I in the will of God? Is this the will of God? Is this the purpose of God? Is this the plan of God? I've aligned my life with that, nothing else. Could I have made other decisions anytime, anywhere? I'm not stupid. Hello? Okay, that went well. So, having said that, Acts chapter 9, verse 36 and 37, in the Amplified Classic, you got to get this one. I'm going somewhere with this. Bear with me. Tell somebody next to you, going to get better. I just want to get you the thought-provoking thing in there to get the grace stuff going. It's going to get better. He says, Acts 9, verse 36 and 37. Now there was at Joppa a disciple. What? Who goes to Joppa? They that flee from the presence of God. Hello? Who goes to Joppa? They want to make ends meet and they want to go make a life for themselves without the will of God. Watch. There was at Joppa a disciple, a woman, named in Aramaic Tabitha, which in Greek means Dorcas. She was abounding in good deeds and acts of charity. Where did this happen? Joppa. You can even do good things and do right things, charitable things, great things for people and whatever have you, but still be a Joppa. Verse 37. About that time, she fell sick and died. And when they had cleansed her, they laid her in an upper room. Now, when I read those two verses, I said, Lord, how do you preach on that? Somebody's auntie or grandma dies, lays her in an upper room, that's it. But was I blessed when I found this? Bear with me. Now, Joppa had a certain woman named Tabitha. Now, how many of you remember, I've said this how many times, a woman always represent the church. So would you believe me if I tell you somebody planted a church in Joppa? So there was a church in that city that was abounding in good deeds and acts of charity. Can I tell you how many churches are like that? Is it wrong? Not necessarily. Is it totally accurate? Not necessarily. However, that church is sick and ailing. Something's wrong in the equation. Something's wrong in the way they do it. It has no life in it. In that state, they pour water, which is word, over the corpse, but it has no water in it. Not receiving the water, not drinking the water, but the water cleanses and the water purifies. So, it's even placed in an elevated position. Isn't that funny that we tend to do that with the dead? So we tend to do that with the dead. They elevate it. Okay. But I believe this is a prophetic glimpse of the current state of the church as a whole. If you look at the church globally, if you look at the current state of the church in South Africa, you look at the current state of the church everywhere, we are busy with some funny stuff. But God is restructuring the prophetic. I said God is restructuring the prophetic. Tell somebody next to you something new is about to break forth. See, it takes Peter to shake up the atmosphere. I said it takes a Peter to shake up the atmosphere. Acts 9 verse 39, Amplified Classic says the following. So Peter immediately rose and accompanied them. So they sent messengers and say, this woman is dead. Peter, you must come. So Peter immediately rose and accompanied them. And when he had arrived, they took him to the upper room. That is a very interesting place. Tell somebody next to you it's a very interesting place. Yeah, they took him to the upper room. Then, all the widows stood around him, crying and displaying undershirts or tunics and other garments, such as Dorcas was accustomed to make while she was with them. So, having said that, the upper room or elevated place, I did a little study on where they took him, was on the third floor. Say third story. Now, every time you hear the word third, it's the realm for the apostolic. Third day, threefold things. How many of you remember what we're talking about? Okay. Third is in apostolic terms. So in a level or a platform of apostolic reformation is a dead church. I'm going to say that again. In a level or a platform of apostolic reformation is a dead church. A church with good deeds, a church with acts of charity, but no life. What are we busy with? Joppa. What are we doing in Joppa? Trading. Interesting. It's a church that can trade, peddle the word of God for finances, but also become a port for those fleeing from the presence of God and the purpose of God. See, the moment that people rebel against God and they flee to safe places and they feel safe in your presence, something's wrong with your relationship with God. I'm going to say it again. The moment people rebel against God, the moment they reject God, and the moment they reject the purpose of God, and they flee into your midst and feel safe, something's wrong with your relationship with God. What are we harboring? Peter stood in the middle of all the proofs of good works, but surrounding him were widows. There's a prophetic company that's rising up in the midst of an apostolic reformation, but it's facing a dead church. They grew accustomed to good works, good acts. If I do this, I'm okay. If I do that, I'm okay. I'm practicing the 7 principles to this and the 3 steps to that, so I should be okay. Something's wrong with this equation. Why? There's no life. There's no life. Where's the power? So having said that, that word widows means 2 things. They with deficiency and lacking husband. So you find a deficient church with the dead in an apostolic reformation, but the prophetic implication and that which brings life is missing. But we are operating the works. Don't know if it makes sense. Yeah, we're going somewhere. So Peter stood in the middle of all these proofs. But this company of people are surrounded with deficiency and lack. Lacking relationally. Why? They have no relation. Lacking provisionally. Husbands are dead, there's no provision. The coats and the garments this church provide gave them covering and identity. That's why they didn't know who they are, where they are, the moment that the woman died. The moment that the church stops the covering, the moment that the church moves, closes, moves to another place, they backslide. Because the church gave them their identity and their covering. They had no relationship with God. They lost their identity. They lost the point of contact and connection. Why? They married to a house, not the presence of God. This is a test. Are we married to a building? Are we married to an address? Oh, I have trouble with that. I'm out of the old, but I'm not in the new. So what is your address? No man's land. Wow. It's frustrating. But that's upgrade. I said that's upgrade. How many of you have ever gone into the chambers of these cubicles where you fit on something you want to buy out of a shop or a store? How many of you have ever done that? So you go in with your clothes and you take that which you are going to wear with and you walk into the cubicle and you fit it and it fits like a glove. My Lord, this looks good. Awesome. Gorgeous. And now what? Your clothes are hanging there. New clothes are on here, but it ain't yours. But you get the feeling and you get the look. And then you have to take it off again, and you have to put on the old, and now you walk out, but you can't wear the new yet. So that's where you are, in upgrade. We've seen the glimpse. We know what we're after. We know it's going to fit. I already see myself in that thing. And then, okay. That went well. As long as we're a household that don't get our identity from a building. Hear my heart. Don't get your identity from a crowd. No, I'm with this crowd. No, I'm with that crowd. Excuse me. I'm after the presence of God. I don't care what crowd. I don't care where. I'm after the presence of God. Under the trees, in a garage, in a freaking hallway, in a shopping center. I don't care. I'm in the car after the presence. I'm in the shower after the presence of God. I'm after the presence of God. Because there's got to be the power, the demonstration of what we're busy with. So, good works don't raise the dead. Tell somebody next to you, good works don't raise the dead. I'm going to say it again. Good works don't raise the dead. In Acts chapter 9, verse 40 and 41, in the Amplified Classic, it says the following. But Peter put them all out of the room, knelt down and prayed. What was he after? The presence. Then turning to the body, he said, stop right there. Is this woman dead? Of course, it says so. Was the ceremonial cleansing and washing done on the woman that's dead? Of course, they say so. Were there mourners and widows that mourned her loss? Of course, they say so. Was she laid in a specific place? A reformation, an apostolic reformation, where a church is lying on a deathbed? Yes, it says that. So Peter does something phenomenal. What does he do? He ignores the corpse. Isn't that interesting? And then he chases out everybody that faffs over the corpse. How many of you caught that one? Watch. Then turning to the body, he said, I want to ask you something. You're talking to dead people? What's your level of communication? You think she's going to respond? You think she's listening? I love this. Then turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, get up. She opened her eyes. And when she saw Peter, she raised herself and sat upright. Verse 41. And he gave her his hand and lifted her. Then calling in God's people and the widows, he presented her to them alive. Isn't that amazing? What a miracle. What a miracle. Tell somebody next to you, that's a miracle. So there's hope for a church that's dead in an apostolic reformation. If there is a Peter around. So when God is reconstructing and reconfiguring a church, in other words, raising the dead, sometimes we have to separate ourselves from. I'm going to list 3 things. Very important. You have to separate yourself from the demands of the deficient. Eish. Then you have to separate yourselves from the needs of the lacking. Because they were the widows. He chased them out. Then you have to separate yourself from the weeping of the fearful. Hello? Yeah. Yep. But reformation takes place in hiddenness and darkness, in isolation and separation. In separating yourself, Jesus kept on, there's this word, coming aside. How many of you have ever heard that word? coming aside. To do what? Just put distance between him and the needs. Put distance between him and the demands. Put distance between him and the weak. And, hello? Yeah. Why? Because the same way that Peter connected looking for the presence, you have to come aside, get the presence, and come back, meet the need. Yeah. Hello? Yeah. Check. So reformation takes place in hiddenness and darkness, in isolation and separation. Sometimes he brings you to a place where it's only you and God. We've had such a place now the last 2 months. I don't know if you found that out. Nobody to hold your hand. Nobody that understands. Nobody that knows what I'm going through. Hello? I feel so cut off, isolated, no fellowship. Okay. It's time to address 3 things. Check this. It's time to address and connect with God in prayer. Up your prayer life. Come on, I'm going to say it again. Up your prayer life. I'm here to tell you this morning. Up your prayer life. Listen to me just very carefully. Just give me your ears for 3 seconds. Up your prayer life. It's time to address that dead company or address that dead body. What's the thing that died? I said, what's the thing that died inside of you? What's the dream that died? What's the desire that died? What's the relationship that died? What's the thing that died? Even if you're in an apostolic reformation, some stuff died. Yeah, there's a lot of things that must die, but there's a lot of things that must be resurrected. It's time to address and declare the complete opposite. Arise and stand up. Hello? I think we find ourselves too many times still speaking the situation. Yeah. Everybody knows it's dead. Yeah, it's dead. It's really dead. Last time I looked, it was a dead. Yesterday was dead, today is twice dead. Dead is dead. This thing is dead. So where's the people that speak the opposite and said, I know what they said yesterday. But get up. Yeah. Get up. Come on, get up. Yes, we believe a lot of hogwash. This dead church needs a new vision. She opened her eyes. New perspective. Well, she saw Peter, not the coats and the garments. What do they see when they look at you? When you raise the dead? It says she saw Peter. She looked Peter in the eyes. In other words, didn't see the good works and didn't see the what and the what. What did she see? She looked at Peter straight in the eyes. In other words, the one through whom the power was flowing. The configuration of the grace upon her life, upon Peter's life. That grace configuration. That's why the word says we know no man after the flesh. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? So it's time for an apostolic people to see a new grace-carrying vessel with demonstration of resurrection power. Tell somebody next to you, enough is enough. It's finished. No more same old, same old. It's finished. Now it's interesting, you got to see this. Peter gave her, this church, his hand. Quite interesting. Why would they make a statement like that? You must see what this actually means. This is beautiful. That word hand means the instrument of power and might. What do we deposit in the lives of people when you connect with them? Even though they are dead. You're going to speak what they speak, you're going to speak their condition, you're going to speak their situation, or do you give them the instrument of your power and might? So in the name of Jesus, get up. Then it also means the channel of association. So when he extended his hand, he extended the channel of association to do what? Get her up from the deathbed. And it also is the means. In other words, he gave her the means to get up and get going. So he lifted her up. We're going to become the resurrection power to a dead church. Hello? I said, we are going to become the resurrection power to a dead church. To dead situations. To dead relations. You become the resurrection power. That's why he sends you. You carry a resurrection glory in you whenever you get to stuff. Amen. How many of you know what a battery is? It's something that gives power. But batteries go flat. Where do they go? You. How many of you get that? Yeah. I said batteries go flat. So where must you recharge the battery? You. A continual source of resurrection power to charge flat batteries. Listen to what it says. It says, Acts 9 verse 41. And he, that's Peter, gave her his hand and lifted her up. That's fine. I told you what the hand means. Then calling in God's people and the widows. Why would he distinguish between them? Think about that. Who did he call first? God's people. Hello? Oh my gosh. I'm not saying that the widows weren't God's people. I'm just saying he called a certain crowd that probably had the same understanding, the same power, the same glory, the same manifestation as what he had. He called them in, and then the widows came. Because he said the lacking and those you will have with you anyhow. But that's not your ministry. Hello? So in this household, we pray everybody prosper. Yeah. Everybody have over sufficient, superfluous sufficiency. Yes. Over and above what you need. Yes. Over and above what you require. Yes. The same way that he said there were no feeble, no sick, no poor when they left the house of Egypt. Why? It says the Egyptians gave them silver, gold, and raiment. That's how they plundered the system of Egypt. Because God put them in a stupor and they just gave. So they walked out with back pay. So everybody in the house walks out with back pay. So there's no feeble, no weak, no sick, no poor among us. So we come to a point where there's a demand and a demand and a demand and a demand. It is so interesting to note how people abuse the system of church. Not connected to a church, won't serve in a church, won't contribute to a church, won't put their name on a list at a church, won't do nothing for anything to the church, but when I'm poor and when I'm broke, oh, you need to get the first church. They will help you. No, it's inaccurate. Yeah. It's not what the word says. So we become a soup kitchen and we become a whatever have you and a helping hand for this and a helping hand for that. And it's all works of good works and it's beneficial. I'm not saying stop that, but I'm saying get to prayer first. Yeah. And then you get to God's people. And then you meet the need if there's overflow. Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Because in an apostolic reformation, we start with the works. Where's the power? Peter gave this church his hand, then calling God's people, then the widows. We must not lose focus of the apostolic prophetic order. There's room for both. We don't build a dead church with good works, but a prophetic house with power. I'm going to say it again. We don't build a dead church with good works. We're building an apostolic house, a prophetic house with power. So it's time to build together as a prophetic company. Something has to change in the way we see things. Something has to change in the way we address household. Just in the way we have communion. Something has to change. Our communion services should be resurrection services. Everything is provided in the communion meal. Everything. Everything is provided in the communion meal. If we take communion right, there should not be one sick, one feeble, one poor, one broke, one with debt in the house. Amen. Do we have the full understanding yet? No. Will we get there? I don't know. Will we aim for it? Yes. But we have to do church differently. I said we have to gather together differently. We have to come as resource centers, bringing it to the body. Full of power. Full of power. I'm all for it if people gather together to get that lift for the week. I mean, but it's even better if you come to deposit the lift for somebody. You become the storehouse of power to raise up somebody. May God help us in our simplicity. Sometimes when I pray, I say, God, in my stupidity, may I be stupidly right. Do we have all the answers? No. But we have Him. I mean, a man that knows how to fish walks up to the sea with a line and a hook, no bait. Casts it in, and the first fish he picks up carries a gold coin in his mouth. What's wrong with that picture? He knows how to do this stuff. He's been doing it his whole life. He's been fishing with boats and nets. Come on, he's got Peter Incorporated Fisheries. So he takes an instruction from a man that's never ever fished in his life on a boat, on the sea. Yeah. But he made the fish. And the sea. And the sand. And the man that built the boat. I reckon he's got something going. So may God help us to get to that level, to be the infusion, to be the resurrection power. I want to shake up things. I want to stir things. You want to raise the dead. You want to get a church to another level. I want to wake them up and say, get out of your stupor. It's as if the curtains are closed. Now when I say we're running out of time, it's not because there's a D-Day of, and then it's all over. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we're running out of daylight for what we have to accomplish today. Then daylight for what we have to accomplish tomorrow. Season by season, moment by moment, day by day. What are we after? Now we'll do that next week. I wonder how, it doesn't say that, how long Peter took with the corpse. It says he prayed. Now, I don't think it's his custom to sit with the dead and pray until they answer. But he ignored it completely. And he connected to God. And then he turned to it and said, get up. Just in that sentence already tells me there's no mess, no fuss, no time spent, no waste. So he must have connected to God somehow and says, Lord, I got them all out. Let's do this thing. Get up. We're not going to spend hours, years, months, weeks. Get it done. If there's something you need to accomplish, get it done. Hear my heart this morning. Get it done. Hebrews 12 verse 1. Therefore then, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses who have borne testimony to the truth. The one translation says, they that cheer us on. Heaven's balcony are filled with the heroes of faith, sitting there, glancing over that balcony, cheering us on. That is the picture that he is creating here. Can you imagine Moses sitting there? It took me 120 years. It can take you 120 days. Come on, man. Then it says, this is what I want to get to. Let us strip off and throw aside every encumbrance. Say encumbrance. Then the Amplified says unnecessary weight. Strip off, throw aside every encumbrance, unnecessary weight. And then he qualifies. He goes one step further. He says, and that sin which so readily and deftly and cleverly clings to and entangles us. And let us run with patient endurance and steady and active persistence the appointed course of the race set before. So, there are weights, encumbrances that we have to cast off, and then there are sin that weigh us down. So let's leave the sin out because of grace. You understand? Because we just had communion, you're all clean. Tell the person next to you, we're clean. Because of the word we preach, you're all clean. You're clean. So, let's work with the encumbrance. What is wrapping itself around you? Because it's hindering you from raising the dead. It's hindering you from the will. You're in Joppa. It's hindering you from completing the purpose of God for your life. It's hindering you from the perfect kairoses of assignments. What has wrapped itself around you? That your mind is occupied with fear. That your mind is occupied with anxiety. That your mind is occupied. Come on, I had to fight that demon. It's not normal. It's a spirit. I shared it with some of the people, what we've been going through. And some of you that have listened to the broadcast in the last month and a half, 2 months. You have no idea the attack on every individual in this. Some of them are oblivious to the fact that they've submitted to this thing. They have no idea that we are pleading for their lives 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. God, in your mercy, save them. In your mercy, they have no idea what just moved in. They have no idea what has just encumbered them. They have no idea how this thing will kill the purpose of God in their life. They have no idea how it will suck the life out of them. It will destroy them in Joppa. I come from a perspective of finished work of the cross, but I'm not a fool. We caught a glimpse of what the enemy is doing in the lives of individuals. Why? Because it will kill Tabitha and put her on a bed unless Peter walks in. They will greet her there. Because your good works can't help you. There's a fear that grips some when they get to the age of 21 plus VAT. Not going to have enough for my old day. My Jesus, you were old at 16. And then there's a demon knocking on your door. Well, I am now 25 plus VAT. I only have so many, and I want to still do this and still do that. They are gripped with fear because they've set a limit for themselves. They have no understanding. Then there are Jonahs. I don't feel like doing that. Why was I going to do that? Find someone else. I don't need to do that. I don't have to do that. Can I tell you what's amazing? That the captain of the boat that made room for Jonah thought he was doing Jonah a favor. And Jonah thought, well, this is a blessing from God. It must be the will of God. There's room on the boat. Hey, Fluffy, you have no idea what's coming. Your storm has been diarized. Your fish has been assigned. Your exit strategy, the vomit that you will come out with, has been planned. Where he will spew you out has been designated. You are Nineveh waiting to happen. That's it. What has occupied our mind? What has gripped our heart? What has gripped our spirit? Because I don't want to live there. I don't want to live there. Not worth it. That's not worth it. Because this household, and I will say it emphatically, and I'm going to make no whatever about it, I'm after the presence of God. Amen. I said I'm after the presence of God. Can I tell you what it takes from me? Everything. It took my family, because they're with me in it. Hello. It took every fleeting empty moment, because I'm in the Word. It takes everything I watch, everywhere I go, everyone I meet, everyone I'm connected to. It swallowed me whole. I'm after the presence. Yeah, but the price is too high for this generation. Peter didn't need an encore. He didn't need a company. He didn't need a choir. He was walking in the power. Did he know the woman? No. So my question for our household, for me, this is what God's been dealing with me. Will we put the right stuff in the right places, in the right order, to build accurately, so we can raise a dead church? Or are we part of the system lying on the bed in an apostolic reformation? We got unnecessary weight holding us down. So my next question, what must fall off to get me there? What must fall off to get me there? Gotta get there. I said, I gotta get there. I'm finished trying to stay alive. Yeah, unnecessary weight. Yeah. You will live. Yeah. I'm finished trying to survive. Yeah. Unnecessary weight. You will make it. Yeah. I'm finished trying to keep it together. Yeah. It's going to be okay. Yeah. What do you need to get rid of? Where's my focus? Time to let it go. Time to let it go. Are we going to make it? Yes. Are we going to make it by tomorrow? Probably not. Are we going to make it together?
Yes.
Yes, we are. If there's anything you hear this morning, it's this. Get rid of the encumbrance of unnecessary weight.